Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Board of Supervisors meeting this May 30th, 2023. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
Meet with department heads, elected officials. Krista Poggemiller, Health Department.
Good morning. Really nothing new to report this morning. Just want to remind everyone that we do continue to have COVID vaccine at no cost for the public. So if everyone's interested, we're still doing those on Thursdays. And then I have an agenda item.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back to America. Feels good, doesn't it? The air breathes a little different here, doesn't it? Bless your heart. Angie Vaughn, safety.
Good morning. All's going well. I don't really have anything new to report.
Thank you for keeping us safe. Ken Heinman, this is the last time we'll say Seal Region, so anyways.
Yeah, that's right. This Thursday, June 1st, we have an amended 2080 meeting. All county attorneys are reviewing it, and we'll be sending back their edits by today. So we had a little more cleanup of the 2080 to be done, and then we expect to have an agreement. So we're getting very close.
Chris Lee, Conservation.
Good morning. Got through the Memorial Day weekend, parks were packed. Big Hollow is now sold out for Memorial Day weekend next year. Everybody behaved themselves, couldn't ask for better weather for doing outdoor stuff on a great holiday weekend. So I got through that. Now we are transitioning, getting ready for the Jamboree coming up on Saturday. 9 till 2, Saturday at Big Hollow. Everybody's invited. Should be a good time. It's gonna be hot.
Jared Lassiter, Land Use.
Morning. Pretty much just keeping busy as always. We got work session here after today, but nothing else on the agenda, so anything else to add?
Lisa Schaefer, County Attorney.
First, I hope Tom's coffee was nice and black the way he prefers it.
Was.
Unlike last week. You seem to be off your game a little bit, and I totally understand as a coffee person. First, I want to take the opportunity to introduce our legal intern, Nathaniel Bennett, goes by Nat. I spoke with him last week. His dad used to be a first assistant under Pat Jackson. So we look forward to having him this summer, but I wanted to make sure that everyone knew a face with a name. We'll be hopefully getting him started next week once we start jury trials again. So.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
You look a little bit excited today. Actually, I'm making it up. You look just kind of like you're ready for business, but we're glad to have you. Thanks for coming.
And I went to the
Did
opioid.
Lisa tell you that your father trained her and so she owes you?
And she's gonna get you good. So she knows
No,
that.
Mike was a great boss. I also went to the opioid summit last week, which was put on by ISAC, kind of some ideas for where to be spending the opioid settlement money. Got some really, really good ideas. So hopefully the task force that we have will be, I'll get a meeting set up so we can talk about some of the things and maybe where to focus the money. And then hopefully within the next couple of months be able to do a work session with the board to kind of give you our ideas on some good places to spend the money and how to go about it. We recognize that there'll be quite a bit of time lag for implementation of whatever we do, but it was well worth the time, and ISAC paid for everything, so it was even better. Oh, and thanks to Rodney and Jack for taking care of the small geyser and flood in Trent's office this morning.
Feeling pretty proud of yourself, aren't you, back there?
No.
Not at all?
All right, I'm
We're
glad
gonna
that
continue.
we got the task force, like the sheriff's department, police department, and the attorney.
Pardon?
I say I'm glad that we've got the task force we've got for this opioid stuff, because bringing it down to us three guys, we know nothing about that, but you guys work with it every day.
It was just a really, they looked at various areas, prevention, treatment, recovery. They were looking at it from all disciplines and giving really good ideas that other states have been using, some, or just other counties have implemented some things already. Some of those counties are bigger counties that I think were already on their way to do it, and the settlement money just gave them a little bit of extra boost to be able to do some things, but it was just a really good conference, very informative, lots of good information, but I think better was lots of good ideas. And they were focusing a lot more, less on urban, I'm gonna say less on urban, they were making rural and semi-rural counties a real focus on what to do with that money, which I thought was important. It seems sometimes we get lost in the Des Moines and the Cedar Rapids and the county. They really were focusing on small things that you can do as a more rural county to really make a big impact, which I thought was important. It was just a very, very good conference. I was quite pleased. And I said, they paid for everything, so it was even better.
Alrighty then.
That's a good part. Thank you for being on that for us. You too, Kevin.
Absolutely. I figured our ideas would be the ideas that they would just be loving to hear, that we came up with some good ones.
All right. Colin Hurst, IT.
Good morning. Just keep busy like always, don't really have anything new to report.
Sheriff Kevin Glendenning.
Things are going well. It's been another busy week. Our jail population's at 73. We had 3 or 4 out of county. I apologize, I didn't look right at that number, but just had 1 in intake this morning, and we have 5 on the wait list for prison. Sorry, 2 on the wait list for prison, and they're going out this week, and then 5 on the wait list for the halfway house. And 2 of those are females. They'll be there for a while. 3 have been there for like right around a week. So they've been managing that number much better on the men's residential side. The wait list is always pretty long for the female space. But our population's doing well. We attended NICS training, which is the National Instant Criminal Background Check last week. Myself and 2 of our clerks who really do like the heavy lifting on those.
Can you give me that again?
Sure, it's called NICS. So anytime you do if you don't have a permit to purchase a
No,
firearm.
I mean, can you tell me what NICS is?
Sure. It's the National Instant Criminal Background Search. So what that is, if somebody's disqualified from owning a firearm, we do a NICS check, and it comes back and tells us, gives us a disqualification, and we go beyond that when we do permits. We do actual criminal background checks that give us a reason to deny or approve a permit. So this is just some training that the FBI puts on, and it's been several years since they put it on, but they sent around 3 trainers, and they did cover all of Iowa, and a couple training dates. And it's just good updates, good information, good contacts when you have those weird reasons where you can actually reach out by email or by phone and go to them directly and figure out whether this person can or can't be approved for a permit to purchase a firearm. So good training, and that's about all I got.
We appreciate that. Rodney Bleasner, maintenance.
Good morning. Definitely feels like a Monday, so I had unintentional extra cleaning of Trent's office down at the county attorney's office this morning, so had a small water leak in the sprinkler system. Added some water to Trent's office, not too bad. So the guys got all cleaned up, got some fans on it, but nice way to start Tuesday morning. So, never had a bad day. Never appreciate the greatness of a good day. So.
Well said, Rod.
Rockaway finished up with the jail roof on last week, Friday. So the roof part of it's complete, except for the edge cap. They're waiting to finish that up till they do the exterior walls. That'll, I think, planning on starting in July. So the materials won't get here till the end of June. So they got buttoned up real nice. Things went well, actually better than expected, so I didn't want to say that too much too early. But things went well, they're pretty much complete except for that. They'll come back when they get the walls up, finish that project, and we'll be done there. Other than that, just have an agenda item this morning. Thank you.
Cheryl McVeigh, Finance Director.
Just have an agenda item today, thank you.
Sarah Marie, Auditor.
Good morning. Tomorrow is our last day for our food drive, so if you're wanting to donate anything, please bring it in. Other than that, just busy, business as usual.
And did I hit everybody except for Brian? All right, Brian Carter, it's all yours.
Good morning. Plenty of stuff going on, but probably the biggest topic last week, Thursday, Friday, they got most of the dust control done for our dust control program in the county. They are finishing this afternoon, or this morning, hopefully, actually. So they're working on the rest of it today, mostly south of
I've got a
Burlington.
complaint about that, by the way.
Oh, that does not shock me.
There's one road you dust control, and then there's another one just right connected to it that you just blew off.
Terrible. So yeah, it always brings out the, why would you do this instead of that? Although some of them may have been because they didn't have enough product to stay. It just depends on, you have to ask the questions and find it out. So I can get that information from you and check it out. Other than that, there's an agreement on the agenda. I can talk about that when that comes along. And we're still waiting to hear from the contractor about 99. So once I know more about that, I'll let you guys know. So other than that, just moving along and trying to get things ready.
Okay, let's move on to correspondence. Any correspondence?
I have none.
I had no, I did get a thank you from somebody, I think I forwarded.
You did.
For the dust control.
We turned really dry really early. It became a much bigger topic in May than normal. I mean, yeah, by the time they did it, but there's been years where we didn't get the dust control down until June, you know, and obviously we got it done, which is great, but we have dried out something crazy all of a sudden now. So dust is a frequent topic and on the phones in our office.
All right, I'm sure you'll keep talking about it. Let's move on. Now it's time for discussion and vote. First, we have a public hearing for FY23 budget amendment.
Move to go on public hearing?
Second.
Moved in second. Sarah Marie.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. How much time do we usually take for, we're taking 2 minutes on this for phone calls?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna open up the phone lines. We'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or concerns over the budget amendments. You can call in at 319-753-8203, extension 4, or you can email us now at board@dmcounty.com. You can email us now at board@dmcounty.com, or you can call at 319-753-8203, extension 4. We're gonna give you 2 minutes to hear from you. Jim, Tom, want to say anything?
I'd like to yield to Cheryl.
Cheryl?
We had 3 departments request budget amendments. DHS is asking for $5,500, that'll come out of general basic. And that was just additional cost for the move that they hadn't anticipated. So they'll feel more comfortable if they have that additional money in their budget to make it through June. And Conservation's asking for $18,920. $6,820 of that is coming from a grant, and the rest of it will come out of Fund 27, which is their fund that all their expenses are coming out of now, so.
Conservation Reserve.
Yep. Secondary roads, $2,857,000, as for construction projects, rock, dust control, patches, salt, fuel, and District 8 shed. So they have their own fund balance, so that'll come out of Fund 20, and none of this affects taxes because it's all gonna come out of fund balances, so.
Well, you heard it first from Cheryl Mack, so still waiting for all those angry callers. We've got probably about a minute left.
About 30 seconds.
57 seconds?
No, 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Miracle here. Say miracle here.
A miracle here.
I did not receive anything in my office either.
Thank you, Sarah. I meant to ask you that. I didn't. Can you repeat that so everybody can hear you?
There was no comments received in the auditor's office.
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved in second to close the public hearing. Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. That brings us to 5B, which is approval of the resolution 2023-27, budget amendment for FY '23.
Motion to approve. Second.
Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. And thank you, Cheryl, for your hard work and department heads. Next, we have 5C, which is a resignation of Des Moines County Board of Health. To the Des Moines County Board of Supervisors, I have moved Iowa City to pastor Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church, and I will no longer be able to serve on the Board of Health. I joined the board in the midst of COVID-19 and watched as the director skillfully helped the communities navigate all of that. During my time as a commissioner, I found the board members to be willing workers, people that would act in a nonpartisan way for the betterment of the citizens of Des Moines County, and I will miss our meetings. It was my pleasure to serve. Thank you, Reverend Orlando R. Dial.
I will make the motion for that, but he is going to be missed. He was a great board member. I enjoyed serving with him, very knowledgeable, and I wish him well.
Sarah Marie?
Second the motion
Sarah Marie?
and the thought.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. And he will be missed, but we do have a replacement for him, which brings us to D, which is the appointment for the Des Moines County Board of Health. To whom it may concern, attention, Krista Pogmiller, Administrator. Please consider my request to become a member of the Des Moines County Board of Health. I have a keen interest in all aspects of health and the things that impact the maintenance of quality health for all individuals. My knowledge of the community and experience in healthcare will be an asset to the board. Thank you for your consideration, Ann B. Fedler. I get a motion on Ann?
Motion approved, and she is a real good replacement, being in the medical field. She's trained hundreds, if not thousands, of RN nurses throughout the county, my daughter being one of them.
Second.
Moved in second with confidence. Sarah Marie?
Jim Carrey,
Yes,
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
and her mother taught me in 5th grade too.
Yeah, Ann Miller has been an instructor at SCC. I think she said she had 1,700 nursing students that she put through the program there. She's,
Lord.
yeah, she has been in the community a long time and worked as a nurse, so we're very lucky to have her, and, yeah. We're going to miss Reverend Dial. He was a wonderful board member, so we're glad to have him join the board.
Okay. Next, we're at E, which is the approval of the FY '24 Crisis Center lease agreement. The lease agreement between Des Moines County and Hope Haven Area Development for Cottonwood property. The rental is $4,980 and $81 per month for the rental of $59,780 per year. I think the only other thing that I was going to bring up was at anything over $500, they've got to get approval from the Board of Supervisors. Anybody want to, think they want to add on this?
I would just say, this is for the Crisis Center out at the Cottonwood Complex. Also, Ken pointed out that suite number on that first page said 2002 should be 1003, but just an annual agreement that we've had for several years with them. Program seems to be doing pretty well. And they have, they keep people rotating through there, so they seem to be doing well. Everything's going good, so we would recommend approval. That and the lease agreement rate is based off the region's square footage calculation that they come up with, so that's how we come up with it.
Ken, I think that's the only operating crisis center in the region. the
That's what
current
I was
region.
thinking, yeah, because we had one in Fairfield and one in Burlington, but they had some shortage of workers in Fairfield, and so they've not been able to keep that one going. Right now, during the contracting, so Hope Haven, it's a 5-bed facility, and Hope Haven's had some staffing issues too, so right now they're at 3 beds at that facility, but they're still keeping it open and doing the best they can, and I'm hoping that they can bring it back up to 5 beds if they find enough staff to do that. So, yeah, we're very much in need of continuing that facility, because it's very, very helpful for people who need a step down from hospitalization. They don't need hospitalization anymore, but they need somebody, some supports in place to help them to stabilize while they're in a crisis. And people can stay for, you know, Medicaid will pay 3 to 5 days, but the region agrees to pay for up to 6 weeks for a person to get stable. And sometimes they're looking for housing, sometimes they're looking for jobs while they're there, and it gives them more support during a time when they really need it.
Motion to approve the lease agreement.
Second.
Moved in second, Sarah Marie.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Five F is liquor license renewal for Flint Hill Municipal's golf course. No problems there, Sheriff?
No concerns with it.
Get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, Sarah Marie.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. Next we have 5G, which is payroll reimbursement claims for 5/30/23 reimbursements of $170.29, zero in non-cash tax amount. Can I get a motion to approve?
Did you skip an agenda item, or did I miss it?
Yours
No,
coming
you're
up.
next.
You're 8.
Oh,
Yeah,
not on the
you're-
agenda, I have printed. Sorry,
Yeah, you're coming up, man. We're on G.
fair enough. I'd say my agenda says H, I got it, so.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Well, I just wanna make sure.
I'm just trying to approve payroll, man. You know?
I didn't know there was an amended agenda.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, thank God.
Don, did you?
Don,
Hey,
he's
there's
out of
copy
order.
right
You're out of order. I've been
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry, Shane.
Moved in second, Sarah Marie.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Finally.
About time.
I don't think you have the amended agenda.
Apparently, clearly not.
Now it's your turn, but hold on, all right. Now we have 5H, which is approval of the IDOT right-of-way agreement, 2023-C-097. I'll turn that over to Mr. Carter.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly last week. I've been working on this on and off with the DOT for, they probably sent it to me a month ago. This is, I guess the boiled down version is this is an agreement they want the county to sign so that as they're buying right away on the north segment, I would call it segment 3, but the segment of the 4-lane that extends from Mediapolis or north of Mediapolis up to Highway 78. Obviously 78 is in Louisa County, so this would only cover Des Moines County. This allows their right-of-way office to purchase right-of-way in the name of Des Moines County. So if you imagine going up and down the 4-lane, there's the main strip of right-of-way for the 4-lane, But then there are other locations where they've had to buy extra to hook up the county road, or where they had to bow the roads out to connect it, and they buy that in the name of Des Moines County so that our road is sitting on our right of way.
They write the check.
They write the check. Yep, and so, the first agreement was quite a bit longer. I made them strip a bunch of stuff out and, boil it down a little bit and all that sort of stuff. Cause there will be other, agreements to, nobody's staring, Jim. Nobody's staring.
I was just enjoying the look on Schaefer's face, man. It's priceless.
There will be other agreements coming that have to do with construction and taking over roads and stuff like that, so, I would recommend approval. I think it's just a formality really to keep things moving.
As long as they're paying the bill, motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
I can put some dance music on there if you people would rather have that. I didn't see anybody getting up jumping around.
Get added to the ambiance of Brian's
Yeah,
conversation.
really brighten things up.
Got to put that on silent this morning.
So that music gave us a 50% boost in viewership. We're up to 6.
Only if you get up and dance.
That might bring it back down.
Try to get it.
We don't have to stamp that second sheet.
Do I need to stamp those signature sheets on that,
On
or
which
just the
one?
top cover?
On his contract?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's just the top.
If I do, let me know. We'll see it.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
It's
But
a
I think just
state-
the, and you just got to sign the one where
It's a
it's,
state contract, it's not federal.
Yeah,
You
you're
can
good.
do whatever you want on it.
Okay, let's move on to personnel actions. First, we have 3 for the correctional center. We have Zoe Elan. She is a correctional officer part-time. And she's turning in her resignation, bless her heart, as of June 2nd, 2023. Then we have Austin Dunham, who's a correctional officer. He's ready for his 60-month step increase. His previous rate was at $46,230.57. It was effective March 26, 2023 to $47,733.07. And then we also have Michael Hayes, who's a correctional officer. And he's ready for his 60-month step increase as well, from $46,230.57 to $47,733.07, effective February 7, 2023.
Move to approve all 3.
Second.
Moved in second, Sarah Marie?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. And then we'll have, we've got one for engineer's office for Peyton Brockett, for a seasonal worker. He's a new hire at $11 per hour, starting 5/22/23. Need a motion to approve.
Motion to second. Did you?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion to approve then.
Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. You don't get any more peanut M&Ms before a meeting starts. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are J, which are meetings for regular meeting, minutes for regular meeting on May 23rd, 2023. I get a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved in second, Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. Any other business?
I have none.
I have none.
Thank you.
Future agenda items? Committee reports.
I have none.
Thomas?
I have none.
I have none as well. Brings us to 9, public input. We would love to hear from you. So if you have something you'd like to share, or if there's any of you 6 that are watching, and you would like to ask any questions, we want to hear from you. Call us at area code 319-753-8203, extension 4, or you can email us at board@dmcounty.com. Again, you can call us at 319-753-8203, extension 4, or you can email us at board@dmcounty.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're gonna give you 2 minutes. And while we wait, Thomas, tell us about your coffee that you got this morning.
It's hot, it's black. The way coffee was made, but supposed to be.
You heard it here first at the Moines County Board of Supervisors meeting. Woo!
Nobody put whipped cream and caramel in it.
There you go.
You're still laughing about that, dude. You have issues with that.
God, that was disappointing.
James?
Well, the only thing I'd like to know, Bob put a little piece of paper on donut holes. Has Shane got anybody convinced that they're donut balls yet?
Anybody see the basketball whole game last night? Or the basketball game last night? Anybody see that? Interesting. I've asked and nobody watches basketball.
Are you trying to evade the question about the donut
No,
holes?
no, James, I'm just trying to be a realist on this, man, that's all.
We'll let the lawyers and the audience settle it. Are they donut holes or donut balls?
I have never heard them referred to as anything but a donut hole.
There you go, Shane.
But I'm asking the lawyer.
And the other word
That's
is
hearsay.
too, so.
That's hearsay. I don't know if it's hearsay, but anyways. No, it's not hearsay?
I listened to a podcast over the
I'm
weekend.
with you, Nate.
Oh, this
I
is
hope
gonna
it
be
wasn't
good.
about donut balls.
Listen to a podcast.
No, it was this young lady who lives in New York, she's an economist. Anyway, so she gets called for jury duty a lot, she said they have trouble there. But she said attorneys love her, because when they ask her what she does, she says, and they said, can you price pain and suffering? She said, I can price anything. So she spends a fair amount of her time on juries, I believe.
She can put a price on anything. I can price anything. All righty then.
Could be good in a civil case.
Yeah.
2 minutes ago.
2 minutes are up. Well, 2 minutes are up, so we've come to the conclusion of this meeting. With an aye, we'll be adjourned.
Aye.
Okay. Sarah Marie, let's get it on. We good?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're at our work session for wind and solar. So gentlemen, please introduce yourselves again and let's pick up where we left off.
Yeah, Zach James, Assistant Director, Southeast Ohio Planning Commission, and Des Moines County Land Use Administrator.
Drew Lassiter, also with Southeast Iowa Regional Planning and Assistant Land Use Administrator.
Well, I can go ahead and I'll maybe highlight a few things, and then if there's some specific things you want to discuss in more detail or kind of pick up on some of the things we talked about last time, I think we addressed hopefully most of them. There was a couple we had a few questions on. Yeah, we're still on the wind. Most of the changes would be the same for both, but I mean, there are some differences in each one about some of the more specific regulations like setbacks and things, but.
And I appreciate the changes you made in talking to me about it. And I've got a couple, three of them just wording. And we changed it on page 2 of the wind one, where financial risk and responsibility.
Yep, and that was gonna be the first thing I was gonna highlight.
Yeah, I guess.
One note here before you say something.
Okay.
So anything in yellow is something that was changed between March and the work session we had last week. And then anything that's red, red font, that's something we changed from last week to this week. Based on our comments, or, yeah, 2 weeks ago, sorry. Felt like a week ago.
This would probably be a question for Trent or somebody. It's just the legal, it says, shall solely be the responsibility of the develop, owner and or operator of the CWECS. And then the new paragraph says the same thing, the developer, owner and or operator shall be solely, and my only question is if there are a couple of those, is there any way, if you had a developer and somebody else was the owner or something like that, that they could point and say, it's that guy's fault? And maybe that's, but I think that's probably just the wording of that, so it focuses, it doesn't matter.
Well, I think that's probably why we word it that way, is because it covers all, and it says and or, but I guess then the question becomes on their side is, no, it was you, it was
Well,
you.
that's-
and I see what you're saying.
Anyway, that's my question. It's not, you guys probably aren't the ones
We
to
can ask
answer
Brent and
that.
see what he says.
But that would be a question for the attorney. I'd just like to know if that's worded
What page did you start on?
That's on page 2,
that's on page 2.
All right, thanks.
financial risk and responsibility. And we're in the wind ordinance.
Thank you.
Where it applies to both.
And that line is in both. Yeah, it's worded the same.
I like the addition.
Yeah, that was something that was in Tom's initial surety language, or assurance bond
Yeah,
language,
back in.
and we covered most of it, but we missed that piece, so we added that in. Give me a second.
And I guess you guys going through this, do you just want to touch on the stuff that's highlighted? Or have you got something,
I mean, if you have
You wanna
something
go through it?
specific we can go through, I was just gonna go through and highlight some of the red changes here, the next one was gonna be the
okay.
setbacks
Okay.
stuff, if you're,
let's do that.
that's on page 5, the bottom of page 5. And we kinda went back and forth on this, we put in the minimum distance between the wind turbine and any of the following shall be 1,800 feet, that was, we kinda went back and forth.
1250.
It was 1250, and then we talked about 2,500, we talked about 1,800. So,
And that's.
I don't know if we ever came to an actual agreement, but I
we
felt like
did.
1,800 was maybe what it was.
1250, I was, for anything that has, what do you call it, civic property or a residential property, I was at 2,500. I think Jim said he was comfortable at 1,800, which is obviously better than 1,200 or what it was.
Right.
I would still ask the board for 2,500, and, because that's just gonna be what you think so I guess that's up to you, where Jim thought
I guess we'll
1,800.
clarify a couple things too, because there's
Okay,
a
yeah.
couple different distances in here. So
Okay.
this is the distance between a wind turbine, and it says any of the following. In most of these, it says the occupied dwelling or civic building on a non-participating property. So that's basically somebody that's, you know, if I own the property that the wind farm is on, that's a participating. So this would be like somebody that is not
Right.
a landowner that's participating in it. So I just wanted to clarify that and just make sure. And then there's the boundary line of a cemetery, and then the conservation lands or federal lands, so.
So what do you, Jim, you still with 1,800 feet?
You get up 2,500, that's a half a mile.
Yeah.
You get out the county, and there's a lot of houses that are less than a mile apart.
Yeah.
That's why I was down at 1,800 foot.
Well, and I just wanted to, we come up with something that's gonna, I like 1,800 a lot better than 1,200.
I like 1,800.
But I like 2,500 best of all, but if you guys like 1,800, I guess that's the question we need to ask. We can sit and we can discuss this from now till the cows come.
I don't know if there's I mean, we were using the numbers that are kind of best practice numbers, but I don't know if there's
That was 1,000 to 1,500.
and
so
I don't
we're
know
already
if there
slightly
is
higher than that.
I don't know if there was really a good reason of this is why it's that number. I mean, I feel like maybe even that was kind of arbitrary. So I don't know, my point is, I don't know any number we pick, if it's like a fully justified, here's why, that's the number. But
I also suspect that when we have a public hearing on this, you know, that once it gets published, that might be one of the,
Argument points.
well, not, one of the items that gets brought up
Somebody
on
might
either
think
side.
about it.
So,
Let me go out of the box here. Brian, you're always out in the road. What do you think about between 1,800 and 2,500?
700 feet.
It's only two there. That's 2 football fields.
I mean, I think I said this maybe to Tom last week, I could understand why they were at that 12 whatever, because I think that probably lets you put X amount in a mile. I'm sure there's probably some logic behind that. It's a quarter mile, I think was what it was at originally, so in theory, you could fit that many in. I think if you're trying to protect the residents that don't have any part in it, 1,800 is better than 1,200, I guess I agree with what Tom said. I think a half mile just depends on how restrictive you wanna be. It will certainly be a bigger challenge. I know this guy back here didn't like it, I can't remember his name, but, that probably tells you that you're heading in the right direction above 1,200, if I had to guess. So, I think it's just a choice. I think you're passing an ordinance, and if you learn along the way that it isn't what you want, the ordinance can be redone. I think you could sit here and debate it all day long. I think they're just two different numbers, and you're gonna learn the first time they come in and do it, and go from there. That's my opinion. It seems to me like you kind of found a middle ground from where you're at. That's kind of how I look at the 1,800 part of it. Otherwise, to me, it's just a number. I think it's better than 12.
I'm at 18, but this isn't one that I will fight on at all. If you guys both say, we're 25, then by God, then let's do 25 and get her done, let's go. So I'm cool, but I did like the 18
I
better than
don't
the
like
12.
1,200, I know that. I wanna move that up.
Yeah.
I like the 18, but you know, I said that last time.
And I truly don't, and I guess this is, I'm assuming that when you have people come in here, because I'm sure this is gonna generate some, I assume this is gonna generate some interest with an ordinance with a public hearing, maybe not, sometimes you're surprised. But I guess this is something that might be discussed, so if you guys are comfortable with 1,800, I can live with it, we just need to come up with a number.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I also, if we go to the next one, what we talked about was since those wind turbines get bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And when I talked to the guy, the guy about the Met Tower, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember asking him, I said, how tall are these? He said, well, they get bigger. He said, they'll range from 500 to 800 at the top of them. So before whatever it was 8. So I like that we
Yeah,
did what
so
we
we-
talked about, change that to either 1,000 feet or 2 times the height of the turbine.
And that's when it's on whoever's the participating property owner.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is, hey, it's on my land, but it's, yeah, it would be 1,000 feet or 2 times, so if it's 800, it'd be 1,600 feet.
Yeah, and I like that a lot better,
Whichever
because
one's
originally
taller,
it was the height plus 10%, which 600 feet would be 660 feet, so I like this.
And you may find, as those things keep getting bigger and longer, and I do believe there's a cap to them coming because of the hauling alone,
Yeah, you could just-
transportation wise, but that times 2, probably as the industry pushes as far as it can with length of blade and everything else, pushes it closer to the 1,800, and I guess where I would go with that is, if you think about it, when you said 800 times 2 is 16, why would you demand any less of a difference for the 1,800 for what you would do for participating as a non-participating? So why would you allow for 12 something for protection on somebody that isn't part of it, as opposed, so I like the 1,800, it seems to match up fairly well ballparkish with the times 2.
It gives the non-participating a little more.
A little more
protection
cushion,
than-
but it may end up being about the same
it could
depending
be,
on the
yeah.
length of the blades as the industry keeps pushing how far they can go.
But-
So I think they make sense that way as far as being very similar.
And I think it's, part of it's safety, and the other part is if you've got property out there, you live out there, you know, part of the county's responsibility is to protect
Your
your
value.
rights, your
rights.
property values, your enjoyment of your property, your use of your property, you know, safely. But if it's my farm and I wanna put it, and I said, okay, I can put it closer, you know, it's one thing for, cause it's apparently not going to irritate me,
Yep.
but you still want a safety factor, so no,
If you've got a mile of frontage, and there are some guys out there that have a mile of frontage, and if you're a farmer and you have a mile of frontage, and if the neighboring houses aren't like right against the property line, you're gonna end up being able to get 2 wind turbines along that frontage. And then you might be able to put 2 on back, cause, I mean, keep in mind, if let's just say you've got 640 acres, you got a section that you own, you can stack those babies in there. I mean, if there's not a house on either side, if you think about it from the road frontage out, if you want the field screwed up that bad, you could certainly load more wind turbines into that one area, so.
And then there's also the option of if one of the neighboring property owners were comfortable
Yeah.
with something being closer, they could just sign a waiver
Yeah.
and allow
Which
it.
we talked about, it was it's already in
the
there.
fence waiver.
Yep, it's basically one of those deals, so yeah.
Yeah, so you know, they don't wanna use my property, but I don't care if they put one closer to mine.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on that? Are we good with?
Why,
Okay. The next one was on page 6. On the height restrictions, this was the one, this is basically the distance between the ground level and the tip of the blade, I think it was 25 feet, so we changed it to 75 feet.
once the board realized that I might even be able to throw a baseball 25 feet in the air, they said, we've gotta get it farther away.
You're a better thrower than I am.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, and Mike said that was the industry standard, was
I mean,
75 feet.
that actually makes some sense, so.
Yeah.
Let's see, page 8. There's a couple things on here, these are actually just, based on the distances we just talked about. So this is for the site plan they have to submit, lines marking the radius at 1,800 feet, and location of existing building structure above ground utilities within 2,000 feet, those are just increased based on the setback distances we just talked about. Let's see, and I'm just looking for the red edits here, if there's something else you wanna touch on, let me know. Okay,
We good, you moving to page 10?
I'm on page,
Oh, you
on
want the
page
red?
13.
Okay.
Hold on, I just got messed up.
But 10 has got the next.
Did I miss something?
Well,
Well, I don't know, I don't like
the
what you
highlights.
read, so that's.
I was just doing the red stuff, but if you wanna go
No,
through
no,
some
no,
of
no,
those
no,
other
that's
things.
right, I looked at it, I thought it was, so, and I think, Brian, have you looked at the road use stuff?
Not recently. It's been a little while. So I printed this stuff off, but I did not get it read back through.
And I read through it, and I think the, for the road stuff, it makes sense to me.
I mean, I remember when we went through it, I thought it looked good early. Obviously, I don't have a lot of experience firsthand with this, so I still look at it as it may be a learning experience.
Well, it was reorganized, I think the flow has been improved and it's structured similar to the decommissioning.
The thing I was gonna highlight is just a minor thing, and I don't think this is a big deal now, on page 13.
For
3 times.
Let me
Yeah, the 3
take
time,
it.
we changed the financial security to 3 times from 2 times.
Yeah, well, and that's because you had in one paragraph it said 2 and one said 3,
Yeah.
so we changed it to 3. Let's go back to 11, I've got another, just a question.
Yeah,
Where we've got the fee structure, the application fee,
yep,
and I know that they're paying for the initial application fee, then they're responsible for any additional county review process if we have to hire an engineer or.
yep. And that's why we stated that, put that kind of blanket statement at the end.
My question is, will this cover the county's cost? Because I'm assuming the county attorney's gonna have to go through that agreement anyway. I don't know, will we have any, with the auditor's office? I guess what I'm saying, how many places does this have to go through? It's gonna have to go through secondary roads? And all I'm saying is that going to cover what it's, the county's gonna cost? Because the secondary roads, they can hire an outside engineer to look at some of this stuff, but somebody out there is gonna have to do that work. IT probably not, but I can't help but think there's gonna be some,
So is the fee,
Handling fee.
is it enough to cover our internal costs?
That's what
is
I'm
you're
wondering,
saying?
if it's enough to actually
I-
cover the county's costs, and I don't know
I have
either.
no idea. I know we put the statement in at the end to cover if we hire any outside
Yeah.
assistance.
And so we're covered for.
Now,
if
the
we have to
other
get
one, it's,
outside.
I'm trying to remember what it is, has 2,500 for
Is-
every 100
is-
acres.
Is this the
And we did,
typical charge?
what's that?
Is this the typical charge on most of those?
They're kind of all over the board. I
Yeah.
think we stole this from,
Lynn
Lynn
County.
County, I believe, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you see
There's all
anything that
kinds
had-
of different ways to.
Did you see anybody that had a handling fee, basically? Did you see any of that action? Where there was an extra fee added for processing fee or anything for the?
No, we did this one, like I said, based off Lynn County, because we talked to them, we've talked to them 2 or 3 times now about it. So they have just a base fee, it's like, here's your, again, it's based off something like this, a certain dollar per 100 acres that you're gonna use. But then they have the extra, this blanket statement in here too about covering other fees, because they hire an outside firm, engineering firm to review plans, and then they hire, in their process, they've got like a public hearing or public meeting. It's part of their review process, and they hire a firm to come like help organize that and do some of the public review and stuff like that. So they cover those fees with that kind of blanket statement, but that's,
And I'm just, because I'm sure like the roads and stuff, Brian, there's gonna be some time involved, especially if you
Right.
get, that covers a large area. Like they talked about that wind farm in the northern part of the county, that would impact a number of roads. Somebody's gonna spend some days, I would imagine, going through some of that stuff with each of those roads.
I think there's been counties, and it's been a while since this has been a topic, I think there's been counties that actually hired consultant firms to handle on-site inspection because they actually rebuilt intersections and did some stuff. Because of the size of cranes seem to be the biggest topic, because they can't, some of those are so big that they can't make the turns, they actually come and fill in the ditches and some stuff like that, so, it's been a long while since this was a hot topic. It was a big topic a few years back. So I might try to go back and look through some old correspondence and see if I can find any history on it, so.
And I'm not trying to hang them, I'm just thinking if the county departments actually are gonna spend that much time if it's gonna cost us more than
Yeah,
$5,000.
and I mean, I don't know
or
how
something like
big
that.
some of these things would be, but I would guess at least a few hundred acres.
I would think our
So-
road user agreement would hit on fees as far as that part of it also on my side of it. Like, if you're gonna agree to the road user fee, I would think we would have some of that, those costs covered in that agreement. If it's in my department.
Okay, well, maybe we should add road user fees.
Well, I say road user fee, but I mean the road use permit,
Yeah,
that road use agreement, I'm assuming we will address,
You're gonna bump that up, is that what you're
I'm
saying?
assuming we will address costs and payments in that are relating to, specifically to anything that comes up on the roads as far as whether it be, you're thinking of as repair, I'm thinking of as not just repair, but consulting fees and stuff like that
yeah.
would be addressed in that road use agreement, that they have to have with us to be able to proceed.
Okay.
So that's where I would see our fees getting reimbursed, because really right now I have no idea how to write it in a general
Where
agreement.
would be the other fees coming from? What else would have?
Well, all right, well, I wondered if the auditor's office would have any time involved in this, or the treasurer, recorder.
I don't know.
I
know the road department
I
will,
don't know,
but-
and I'm assuming the attorney will have some costs, because they're gonna wanna go through some of this.
I think the attorney's office would probably be the next,
That,
most likely.
that's my only question, is that sufficient for the time that county personnel would just spend on anything like this?
I have no idea.
That's why we put the number 4 in there, it's just, because, I mean, it's still kind
Number
of,
4 is for outside help, right?
yeah.
Because
Yeah,
that's not, yeah, because that's, Brian's not gonna be outside help.
Okay, I guess it does, that should cover it. And you're gonna look at those things, if they come here to get
I mean,
what is it, site permitting, you're gonna look at each project separately and saying, you know, this is, but if we do this in this part of the county, that gonna do, you know, there's gonna be more to the county review process, so, yeah, that paragraph probably covers this.
you know, like with the road stuff, there's stuff in there that they have to, they do design and prepare estimates for the damage with their own, at their own expense, but then also pay for somebody else that we pick to review, I believe is how it states it in there. Yeah, so they pay for it, and then we pick somebody that we want to review it, and then they have to
it
pay that cost too,
specifically
so.
mentions, fine here, but the, returning it to the condition, pre-development conditions, so that would essentially cover the alterations needed to be made with the ditches or whatever to get the equipment through.
But as far as the actual fee for the permit, I have no idea if that's gonna cover everybody's time and expense, I don't know.
I would
I mean, in one sense, we're already getting paid to do this stuff, but in the other sense, we wanna make sure that,
That we're not losing money doing it.
right, we're
Yeah, you wanna
not,
protect
cause we're gonna, it's gonna take your time from doing something else though, I guess is the other side of it, so. I don't know, if you wanted to change something, I mean, I think we're open to it, that's something that we went back and forth on several times on how to structure.
I'm
it.
not saying that maybe that last paragraph does take care of it, I'm just I'm just going through what's occurred to me now, we've got my main concerns
Yep.
pretty much.
So if you had though, what did I say, oh, I'm on the wrong page, I think it was 2,500 for 100 acres, so let's say it's 500 acres. So it's at $12,500, is that enough to,
And-
without any outside
Yeah,
firm, just
yeah.
internally, is that enough to cover our
But you could
time?
look at, like, with using that last paragraph, you could look at it and said, well, this particular project is gonna cost additional because of this or that.
Right.
So I guess I'm okay with that.
I guess
I
in a
think
way,
that's
as I
smaller
read it,
projects
as I
that we
read
risk.
it too, technically, I
Oh.
mean, I feel like we could bill them for our own time, as I read that statement.
Okay.
It says, any additional costs incurred as part of the counter review process, including outside consulting firms, so
Yeah.
it's, we'd have to track our time on that. Good questions.
And you were at 13 where you changed that to 3 times, and then you added, we made sure that it covers the developer's liability insurance coverage. One thing we should add to that, whenever, like I said, familiar with contracts. Whenever I signed a contract, there were always insurance requirements. But they said you gotta have liability coverage. I could have $100,000 worth of coverage, you know what I mean? Typically, what they would do, it would say in the invitation to bid, all the bidders will have X number of liability coverage, workman's compensation, and then so big an umbrella policy. In other words, it would list the, and that's something we should probably talk to ICAP or somebody about how much insurance that they would want, so that everybody's clear that we want, if you want a $10 million umbrella or 20 million, whatever it might be, that there's no argument about it later. They said, we've got liability insurance, and we say, but it's only for $1 million.
I guess, as I look through the fee schedule, it's, every 200 acres or whatever it is, solar's easy. I understand how you measure the area of solar. This thing, are you measuring the area when it says 200 acres or less?
Well, so under number 3, it's for purpose of calculating the fee amount, the total size will include the sum total of all participating properties. So that, including all land occupied by buildings, road crops, and open space, so it's just the entire, it's the same for solar too. It's not based on where the infrastructure is for the wind or solar farm, it's the entire
So somebody owns
participating.
a 40 and they put a wind turbine on it, that's gonna be
The whole
40
40.
acres as part of that
Right,
total.
Yep,
Yes.
you got it.
Okay. I just don't know where that cuts off. If a guy owns 640 acres and puts a turbine up, is that 640?
I would think it would
Yeah.
cover each parcel that he had. Wouldn't, well, I don't know. But if he owns 640 acres, he owns more than one parcel.
Well, he owns probably, if that were the case, I just wondering, that he'd probably have a bunch of 40s. He'd probably have a bunch of Aliquot Park 40s. So
Right.
each 40 would be one if it has a turbine on it, but with the other 40s, if they didn't have a turbine on it, add up. So if he only put one on there, but if he put 2, let's just say he put 2 on, is that 80? Or is that 640? I'm curious, how that math does. Solar's really easy to me. It's a grid.
Yeah.
This is a really big grid that's strung out over many, many acres.
I would think it's just the way it goes, because I understand a lot of times those 40-acre pieces are all part of the same deed or the same legal description. They're only split for tax purposes. So I would read that as applying to the entire thing if it includes 640 or whatever.
Yeah,
So
if they own properties in between,
It's their property.
it's their property and those are participating.
So 1 mil and 640 is 640 acres,
That's how I would read it.
if it's owned by the same. Just curious.
I mean, unless they own 2 separate pieces that they bought this one at a different time and it's not legally attached. Maybe
I'm not
that-
trying,
yeah.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
play the
No,
whatever who shoots the hole, shoot a hole in it, I just was wondering how you're gonna count that,
Yeah.
because I could see that being an argument, and I don't, if we don't understand it clearly reading from this, to me, maybe we need a little bit of effort in some version of a description on how that is. Because they're gonna argue it, cause it's
Oh,
cost.
yeah, you're gonna need a.
So I don't think
way to
that's
write
today's
that.
task, but I just wonder if somehow we need to clarify that.
And I would think that if they were gonna break it up in parcels, and you've got one of them on the edge of the parcel, and it's well within the 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet or whether on the parcel, and it's a participating landowner, that would be part of but yeah, that would need to be written out so that it was clear to everybody before they started.
Yeah, I honestly wasn't 100% sure, like I
Well,
said.
that could be addressed through definitions as well, because right now it's any property on which a portion of a wind energy system is located that maybe could specify in terms of 40 acre, whatever.
This may be standard operating in
Yeah.
every other policy. I'm as we sit here, we've all got different ideas.
And we may not need to even have it in here, but we need to have it understand what it's to.
How we're gonna
On
do
our
it.
side, yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
policy procedure.
If there's, and like I said, I have some
And we
experience
could put
with
it in here
contracts.
too if we want to, but.
Whenever anything isn't understood by both parties before. If you've got a problem, you better bring it up now, because afterwards, it'll be the party that's paying the bill that interprets what it
You
means.
got that right.
And, that's the way it'll be.
If this is the same as Lynn County, I suspect that an easy, how they applied it would be kind of a status quo. If this
Yeah, we
has
can
been
call it.
used by other counties, it's probably as simple as calling up their land use people.
I don't know if they've done a wind farm or not, they've done
We could-
several solar farms.
We could call counties that have wind
Wait,
farms
we
and
can
ask
call
them how they structure their fees. I mean, and if they have something similar, I mean, we can, I don't think it's clear. I think we all have a little different idea, and I don't think you wanna have little different ideas if you go into something like this.
I think that's a fair question.
Brian, further down on page 13, where it says notification of property owners, and it's got 0.75 miles of any, what do we usually use when we notify property owners or something like that? You know what I'm saying?
I vary it,
Close a road.
I vary it by quite a bit, on how
I
major it
think
is.
we went back and forth on this one too, cause I don't know that there's like a.
Yeah, because
that's what I'm trying.
if you do a mile, then you've got properties that are on one side of a road, a mile away from that road, and they're using that road to go in instead of the one we're mailing about. So that's why having it at a mile could conceivably cause you to notify a bunch of properties that wouldn't be relevant necessarily.
We try to customize every time we do it, depending on the scope and the extent of the project. I mean, this is gonna be a big project. Nobody's moving in to build one wind turbine.
No,
So to me, more than less is better, because let's face it, it's on them. They're doing it, it's their cost, it's their effort. I don't know that you should try to make it easier. I'm like, I understand what you say, 3/4 of a mile keeps you from getting to the next road, but there's
Yeah.
nothing saying they're not using the next road to run a crane in. When you think of our county, and especially in the area they're gonna do these, it's a 1 mile type grid county, it's your flats. There's a road every mile in most cases. I think a mile makes a lot of sense to pick up the next road, so they have a heads up, because that next road, even though they're not getting a wind turbine maybe, might be used, because that road isn't, for whatever reason.
well, yeah, it would be used as a detour.
Yeah, it could be.
Utilized.
I mean, who knows, there's a lot of what ifs. I just think you're talking about something where they're on the hook to contact people. I would,
Make it a
a
mile.
mile wouldn't hurt my feelings, and that way the neighbor, the next one over, hears or sees it. I mean, that's just, more is better, and it's not our headache, so.
What do you think, Shane?
I'm not gonna argue with that. Jimmy?
I agree with Brian.
I think you always wanna err on the side of letting more people know. You can't go wrong letting people know.
Well, and like, if they got a detour around that for a while and people got, all these people driving by their house, they're gonna be unhappy about that, they're gonna wanna,
Yeah, they might wanna spark up a conversation before it actually happens, and that's what this is prior notice. So I don't, it's rare that you can go wrong letting too many people know. I mean, I sent out 600 and some letters and barely got a small group of the people
That's a
impacted.
pain in the
We're
butt, but
close
you know what, you sent it
99.
out though, and I like that, you sent it out regardless of whether they come, bark, or whatever.
So-
They got it, they received it, and they were.
So I don't think a mile hurts anything at all, personally.
That was one we didn't necessarily have, we kinda talked about it, we just
Yeah.
kinda pick a number, I guess, is ultimately what it came down
What-
to. Where we wanted to cover as much as we can, but not,
when we talk about administrator, who are we talking about?
obviously that would be me.
Okay.
The other nice thing about the
Suppose
mile,
we're
I
Jerry.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, as long as it's in there that would be an outside firm that they would be contracting with.
I think the other nice thing about a mile is when you start looking at these setback distances and such, and you think about the area, again, you're talking about a lot of kind of bigger farmers, you're talking about 1 mile type grids. I mean, a lot of those, they don't own the whole mile, but they might own half of it. I mean, they might own 640, which extends to a half-mile mark. That next person over in that next half mile might you might appreciate it. They might own the other, and then they have a house on their farmstead that's over against that next road, and it helps pick them up. Even though they're not part of it, that wind turbine could be sitting 1,800 feet from their property line. I mean, by our limits, you know, we're thinking along the road frontage, but you can think away from the road also. If a guy owns enough ground and he wants to just stack them in. So I think a mile makes a lot more sense.
Well, I'm good with that.
Good with it.
Do you have other things on the way?
No, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're rolling through it, so I don't have.
I'm just, there were a number of things I noticed or wanted to ask Brian about that.
We're going to 17?
I think that's where, oops. That's where I'm at. I was just there, sorry, and then I passed page 17. Financial security, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. Go ahead.
And if we go to 15, it's got this, on decommissioning standards on 2 and 3. I guess the one of them says remediated in accordance with any and all applicable state and federal laws. And the other is all areas of ground shall be disturbed, shall be reseeded or restored to their original condition prior to the establishment. Do we want to put in there to the satisfaction of the Board of Supervisors? That's a little clearer there that, you know, they don't get to say, that's what it was like. Or we are, I don't think it
That's
makes
up-
any
that's
difference,
up to
makes
you guys.
our position a little stronger.
Right. I think the first one with the state and federal standards is more if there's some type of contamination, there's some DNR type regulations and stuff. So the other one I think was just open-ended, but if you, I see what you're saying.
If they bring us and said, these are the standards, or they say have somebody
Right.
here that could testify, rather than just somebody saying, okay, we've done it. It's,
Right.
that's I like that last phrase on both of those.
Are you adding that to number 2, Tommy? Or are you adding that
I
to?
think he's talking about
No,
number
just
3.
on
Okay,
Article
grounds.
5B, decommissioning standards under paragraph 2 and 3, B2 and B3.
You want,
Just
according to the standard, or?
No, just
supervisor for
to the
3?
satisfaction of Board of Supervisors. To add that to the end of those, you know, in other words, you know.
Of 2 and 3?
2 and 3, in accordance with applicable state and federal laws to the satisfaction of Board of Supervisors. And the other one is restored to their original condition prior to the establishment of the CWECS to satisfaction of Board of Supervisors. And there's no question about who agrees that,
If it's satisfactory or
that
not.
it's, yeah.
Well, decommissioning may be equally as important as the front end of this for them to be on the hook for a consultant for the county's purposes, because if you think about it, the way they leave it is just as crucial as the way it goes in, maybe even more crucial if you look at the.
That's to
perpetuity.
the satisfaction of the,
I mean,
of the independent consultant or something?
I only ask that because I don't, just glancing, and it's, again, I've read through this, but it's been a while since I read the whole thing. Is there language allowing for the county to have a consultant for that to be reimbursed? Because to me,
We would need a
you got the
consultant.
front end and the back end, and let's face it, if you're just gonna, if they're gonna bring in a piece of paper, say, here's our standards, and you're gonna say, oh yeah, you're fine. You're not sure what's gonna happen and what they're gonna find someday
Hey,
buried underneath the earth when they claim they took the whole footing out, but nobody was standing there to make them.
the car isn't locked and the key should be in it, but I can.
I mean, I
Sort of like the pipeline. That
Any of
you've got, no, yeah, the pipeline that CO2 pipeline,
Yeah.
the developer has to provide, we're using Klinger, and they have to pay for somebody
be there on site.
to be on site,
Klinger will be the one on site, but yes.
Yeah, and whether, you know, whether they cover something up when they're building it, and especially decommissioning it, when that would come out, to see that we have somebody on site that said, yeah, they did remove it all, they didn't just cover some of it up.
I just think somewhere in the decommissioning language, a generic language that the developer will cover any cost of a third-party inspector acquired by the Des Moines County Board of Supervisors or something.
Are you in the standards or in the decommissioning plan?
Somewhere within the group, I'm not talking just one spot, I'm just saying, to me, somewhere in there, I would think you'd want a line giving you the option to hire a consultant to oversee.
I agree, because this isn't, something like that isn't gonna have any effect on whether they decide to do this project or not. That'll be a de minimis cost to them, but when they're.
They won't even think twice
but
about that.
But when they are in the actual process of decommissioning, and they said, we can save $20,000 or something like that doing this, it doesn't say we have to do it, we aren't doing it.
Well, and none of us are thinking about what it might be like in 30 or 40 years.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, think about where the environmental regulations are now.
yeah.
Who knows 30 or 40 years from now? I mean,
So,
I just
no,
think having that flexibility for a future board would make a lot of sense.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Where it belongs, I don't think I care, just having the flexibility.
Yeah, I think it could go either place, standards or in the requirements.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, right off the bat, the very top in the last line of the purpose statement, it says that such removal activities do not place any financial obligation on the county or its taxpayers. I mean, you're already talking about financial obligation right there. I don't know if right under that, you can say, county reserves the right to hire, I don't know the exact, it's not tough language. We've been talking about this kind of stuff all the way through here. But I don't think you want it under a specific section. I think you want it to apply to the entire decommissioning.
Right, so would that be a line all by itself that, hey, that we, when the process starts, they have to go through and get,
You could have a B that just talks about financial responsibilities or something like that, and then jump right into, B would become C. You could have something that just calls out that side of it, I don't know, whatever Zach and Jared and you guys think, I just think that you want something to give the future board ammunition to be able to go back on, because you know how it'll go. Any good attorney, even if the board changes this 5 years into this whole thing after 1 or 2 wind farms come in, a good attorney in 40 years is gonna go back and say, we built this under this agreement.
Prior to that.
And we don't have an obligation to pay for a consulting firm to oversee this.
too many grandfathers right
There-
now.
Once they go to pay that, then that will become an issue if it's not in there.
Yeah, so
It's not
having
an
it
issue
in
now.
wherever it fits. I don't think it needs a lot of detail, I think it just leaves that open.
I would agree with that.
I agree, I like that.
I was gonna say to your initial kind of question about, like with bullet number 3, it says all areas of ground that have been disturbed to construct and operate the CWS shall be graded, reseeded, and otherwise restored to their condition prior to the establishment of the CWCS.
Add to
So
that
the
one.
the question was, well, who determines what that condition was? So I think maybe in the requirements, we can put a note, I don't know exactly what they submit, but they have to submit something that
Show
kind
us
of documents the
pictures or
existing
whatever to
conditions,
show us what it
yeah, or
looks like.
something, or yeah, something like that.
That's probably good.
Cause it already has some other things in here about their plan
Yeah.
to get rid of stuff, but I think we'd need to maybe ask them to document the current condition or something through pictures or video.
Do we,
I don't know.
do we need to put something in there? Brian mentioned, and in accordance with environmental or requirements at the time of decommissioning, so if there is something, you know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So that they said, no, we're just gonna match the environmental standards of 2023.
So like in the statement here, we said, which shall be removed and remediated in accordance with any and all applicable state and federal laws, and
At
at
that
the
time,
time of
At
decommissioning
the time
or
of
something.
decommissioning, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
But how does this process, because how do we get to see that each step of this decommissioning, you know what I'm saying, goes down,
You're
the
gonna hire
proper
a
way?
consultant.
Because it's like,
Well,
right, so I'm
it's gonna be
saying, how does
somebody
that?
30 years from now, but yeah, it's probably not gonna be any of us.
But you're,
Well,
but
I'm
that's,
sure it'll be Jim and
you're,
Tom.
you're
Sure.
not even, no board is gonna, no board is
Sure,
gonna
maybe
review
even
the
that's
decommissioning plan.
questionable,
I
probably.
mean, you have to understand, they're gonna bring a decommissioning plan, and right then your consulting firm is gonna be a part of the process. Because they're gonna look it through and say that, and if this is happening here, it's happening elsewhere in the country. So there's probably, again, some specialized firms out there, and board's gonna hire one on when this starts happening, they're gonna go through that firm is gonna go through the plan and say this is acceptable, this isn't acceptable, and then they're also gonna be on site. It's gonna be like the exact, the tail end of exactly what we talked about with the pipeline. I mean, to me, you need them on both ends to do this right. 'Cause you three, if somebody brought a decommissioning plan in for something that's completely foreign, you're not gonna have any idea. So you're gonna have the right to bring somebody in.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to get a clarification in my head where this is going.
Well, they've got a good life if all they have to do is sneak a decommissioning plan by a group of people that doesn't really know much about whatever they're doing. I mean,
Yeah, I just want it written clear that they have to have consultants, and that the consultants will have to sign off on each step of this decommissioning process, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about.
on behalf of the board.
County chosen consultants.
Absolutely.
Well, and that was part of, it maybe, because we did already have something in that they have to provide the estimate to get rid of everything.
For future, that's
And
for the
then,
bonding
yeah,
process.
during the decommissioning, and maybe we just broaden that out to not just the estimate for removal, but
Have an inspection.
make sure it's, yeah, a little more.
Approval of the plan and the,
Right.
and inspection on.
So maybe
on-site
that's just where it
inspection.
goes, is it's just in that section we have a cost estimate, but it's, you know, it's not just the cost estimate to get rid of everything, but it's to review the whole decommissioning plan and provide the estimate. And then they have to pay for whoever we want to review it too.
Right.
Yeah.
So they pay to have it done, but then they pay us to hire whoever we want to give it a thorough review.
Review and on-site. It doesn't, none of what you do matters if you don't make sure they actually physically do it right. And they'll have no motivation if somebody's not standing there on behalf of the county.
If they can just, it wouldn't even be the company, it might be some foreman that they got out there that doesn't care, he said, just cover it up with dirt, they'll never know, or
It's-
we'll be gone.
Just like the problem we have with utility companies, we go through and review hundreds of utility permits all the time. And the utility companies are generally decent to work with, they'll make adjustments in their plants and everything else, then they bring a contractor in to do the construction. And we don't have the manpower to be there. That's where the headache comes in, it's when the contractor, who has no attachment to anything, they just wanna get in, slap it in the ground and get out. And that's when the problem shows up, only it doesn't show up for about 3 or 4 or 5 years
And
after
all
they're gone. So.
Okay. I think we got the general gist of that, so we just gotta figure out how to incorporate it. Alright. I think we're moving, unless you got something else in between.
Nope, I'm good till
17.
17.
Did you have a specific comment on this, or I can just?
On 17?
Yeah, on the new language we added.
Yeah, let's see, the financial security. The financial security shall be continually renewed every 3 years throughout the lifespan of the CWECS, following a reevaluation of the cost estimate. And upon each renewal, the bond shall cover no less than 3 times the updated cost. And then we've got, and that's what it's just gonna roll over, it gets re-estimated every 3 years. And the first year they would have to, anyway, the financial security shall be released only once the county has inspected the site following decommissioning and confirmed that the land has been restored to the condition prior to construction, including the remediation of any contamination. I guess what I would like to, you've got here something, where is it, it says
Kinda
the
gets back to what
60
we were just
days,
talking about.
or the 90 days,
You can go up there at 4, take that no out of there at the end of continued operations. I don't know what that no means.
Where we're at?
Number 4, the owner and operator shall provide notice of intent to continue operations. That says no 180.
Oh.
No less than, I think is what's supposed to be.
which
That's a mistake.
paragraph you on?
Number 4.
Yeah, I think it should say no less than
Yeah,
180
that was
days
a typo,
prior.
sorry about
Oh,
that.
okay, it's
Should be no less.
No less than 180 days prior.
Yep.
on there.
Good catch.
Which is essentially 6 months.
Well, and I guess what it is, they get it re-estimated 6 months before the bond would expire.
Exactly. But then.
But they've got to perform, that they have to provide that bond to us 90 days before, at least, that's what I'm thinking, 90 days before the contract ends, because once that first bond is expired, it's done. So if we haven't approved the next bond, or they have not provided it, you're there.
So the next sentence says that the financial security has not been renewed by the time of the 3-year anniversary, so you're saying it should be 90 days before that?
Well, and I'm just saying, should be continually renewed every 3 years throughout the lifespan, following the evaluation of the costs, and upon each renewal, the bond shall cover no less than 3 times the updated cost. Like we talked about it last time, the first time will be 2.5 years after they put that in. So then, if they put it in 2.5 years later, they need to have it re-estimated and get the bond to us, so that if they don't get the bond to us,
Then we got that window to
then they're
get
in
around it.
default.
Yeah.
You know, then they begin decommissioning, because otherwise, if they say, well, we're working on this, we'll have it to you by the end, and then if you get to that period, a week before it's supposed to go up, they said, well, the bonding company's not gonna give us a bond. Or anything, or gets that, by the time you file any papers, you're gonna be, that bond will have expired.
Right.
You have to get, so I think they have to provide that bond for you 90 days before that end of that contract. And if they do not, the failure to provide that bond, they're in default. And that constitutes an abandonment.
Yeah, and I think that's in that bullet 4, that last paragraph. Well, it's not the 90-day, I think that's all we need to add.
You gotta add that 90 days.
Oh, shit, I was looking through, but yeah, okay.
In the second sentence in bullet 4, if you read that.
Wrong one. Okay, here, because I looked at this. Following the initial sighting, the cost shall be reevaluated, the bond shall come to West. The owner and operator of the notice of intent to continue operations 180 days prior, that's 6 months to the 3-year anniversary. If the financial or security has not been renewed by the time of the 3-year anniversary, well, that means you let that bond expire.
So that's what I'm saying, I think in that statement though is where we need to add that
90 days prior.
But I think that statement is what you're trying to say, we just need to add 90
Yep,
days.
yeah, add that in, then they shall take, because that's fine, but they need to provide that financial security to us 90 days before the end of that 3-year anniversary.
Okay.
But we still need that notice.
And
Yeah, the 180 day
We still
notice.
need that 180 day notice.
So then they got 90 days to get it.
Yeah.
Basically, is-
Yeah.
And I think this covers it. Where you got each time the financial security, and we talked about this, it shall be accompanied by a written agreement that stipulates that it will apply to all future successes, assigns, or errors to which responsibility for operating the system may be transferred between the filing.
Yes.
So in other words, so if they provide a 3-year bond and they decide to sell it to Brian says, yeah, he said, I'll buy that wind farm. And then he said, but then he doesn't have it, so that would automatically, and I think that says that, that's something, we just want an attorney to write, so that it's, it would be clear in court, but that's all I wanted, was that 90 days in there.
No, I think that makes sense.
Then,
Because otherwise, yeah, just, if you don't get it by that anniversary, then it's just.
if you don't,
it's gone, yeah, it's gone.
if you don't get it to file all papers, anything, then there's no bond there,
Right,
and then it's back on the table and you don't have any negotiating leverage at all.
right.
And the other one was, we talked about, was down below there where we've got determination of abandonment. Any CWECS that's not been in operation for a period of 365 consecutive days for any reason other than a natural catastrophic event shall be deemed. I'd like to take out there, it just says 365, it says for any reason other than a natural catastrophic event, take that out of there. If they have a catastrophic tornado goes through that, obviously, they come to the Board of Supervisors and said, you guys know what happened, a tornado hit Des Moines County or whatever the hell it was, and goes down, we are gonna put these back up. The Board of Supervisors is gonna say, no, that's abandonment. That's what they're looking for, is intent to do that. But if you've got that that says you don't have to use it for 365 days, and you don't have to notify anybody of intent because it's a natural disaster, that just sort of eliminates that requirement for them.
That's what you're saying.
So I would like to just take
Because
out
we-
that clause.
I may have just missed, because we did talk about this. Because then if you go to 1A, we add in, provide sufficient evidence or documentation to the Board of Supervisors. We did
Yeah,
add
if-
that in there, and then that says that the failure to reactivate is due to either a natural catastrophic event or a mechanical or technical, yeah. But I see what you're saying, if we take it out at the top, it's just, you have to notify you regardless within 365 days, it doesn't matter what the reason is.
Yeah, because when they come to it, it says, you know, if it's a
You know, a
catastrophic
tornado.
event or whatever, and they explain to us that we're gonna make it work.
You should be able to let somebody know within a year.
Well, yeah.
If there was a tornado
well,
or
if I-
something.
You would think it would be shortly after
Yeah,
that.
be within a couple months or something.
But anyway, so just, they have to let us know within the year.
Okay.
So if we could just take that out of
That
there.
makes sense. But because we did talk about it, because I remember we talked about it, when you called me the other day, and I wasn't exactly sure where to put it, but we did add that thing about to the documentation to the Board of Supervisors. It didn't say anything before, it just said,
So the number 2 though, on the next page says if the owner or operator desires to reinstate and maintain operations, they shall provide the Board of Supervisors with substantial evidence of their intention to do so within 90 days of the abandonment termination. So that's an additional allowance beyond that 365 days, so is that, should that be in it?
so if you did that at the end of 365, it was like the last day,
That's-
and you're saying there's another 90 days on top of
Right.
that. Yeah.
And we've given them that, so like I said, I just don't think you need the natural.
I just get that. So you're okay with that, though, that,
Well, if the owner decides to reinstate, they need to, 90 consecutive days of abandonment determination. And that's where they come, and it hasn't done anything for a year, and we picked a year because when Trent was here, and maybe it was you guys that convinced me that if you were gonna tax it by, property values, property tax, that would be an annual thing, so the 365 makes sense. And if they haven't done anything, then within 90 days,
Right.
they have to bring us something, we tell us
Sure.
that it's abandoned, but that bond is still running. You know, if for some reason in the middle of that, you know, they still have to provide that bond whenever 6 months or 90 days before that contract ends, that it's abandoned. And I think that's, as I look at it, I don't have any problem
Okay.
with that. I just wanna get that, cause if you put it in the first paragraph, I think it,
Okay, so as long as, what the 1A is fine, just so long as it's taken out of
As
the-
long as
the
you
open
take out
paragraph
the-
for F. Okay,
just
no, I think
consecutive
that, I
days.
think that makes sense, too.
okay,
I-
okay, just, all right, just want to be clear on that.
Okay.
And,
I don't think we had any other comments. There was a few other things from before, if you noticed anything, but the Met Tower section, we didn't have anything change.
I didn't quite, well, I forwarded, well, you got the email.
And yeah, we got the email
Yeah,
from the company that was
from-
actually looking at doing it, said they would follow the guidelines
Yeah,
that we have in the
yeah.
draft.
And I think, cause, and I appreciate what you know, but with those changes, I don't have any problem with it.
I don't either, the legal end of it's. we're
Yeah, as long as there's a couple of those paragraphs that the board probably better not write. Colin's got it.
So the solar's basically gonna be about the same then.
Pretty much the same, I mean, some of the setback stuff is different.
The setbacks and quite
Pretty
honestly.
much everything else will be the same, the
Yeah.
road use
It-
stuff is,
Yeah, it has some other stuff about the maintenance of the soil
Yeah.
quality and all that
so
too.
there's a couple of things that are different.
And I've looked through that, I don't know very much about that,
I don't either, that was, reading while the kids was taking a nap. They said, we can
Did
get 3 days.
Did those come from Lee County, or Lynn County too, or some other counties? Most of those,
Yeah, well, it was using the guidance from there's that environmental council that has a comparison of what all the other counties have and what their recommendations are based
So
on
you
that.
didn't use Loiza County?
I mean, looked at it, it was part of our review materials, but.
I didn't use as much of that one though.
Good.
No, Lynn County's got a pretty good, they've had 3 of these, so they've been through it several times. So they were a good resource for us about what to consider and what not to forget about, those types of things. But then, like Jared said, there's a
I think
few like
Loiza,
best practice
the
guides
ordinance
out
for
there.
Loiza generally is pretty good. I think it was just some issues there with the timing of it when they were actually implementing the ordinance and the project was already underway and there were some issues
They
that
kind
obviously
of
got out.
rushed
yeah.
some things at the end. I mean, I don't know how you wanna proceed. If you want, we can make some of these other edits on this wind one, and then if you wanna do something separate, to just go through the solar at some point too, or do you wanna take time to look at it?
once, and that might not hurt, once we got, but I know it was me, but the bond through that,
Yep.
once we came up with a little way to do that satisfied my concerns. I don't wanna call it a compromise, but it really was, cause we still have a bond in effect
Yeah.
for the life of the thing, which was my, and
Well, I don't think any of us wanted to just not have that, it was just
oh,
trying to find the
we're
right
just
way
trying to find something
to
and,
do it, yeah.
and address, the bonding company so that they can come up with a number.
Right.
And they would come up with it every 3 years and the number's high enough that it would satisfy us, so, yeah, that was,
Well, that's given
my
that
nightmare.
180 days intent to continue, but then it's given them 90 days. If we don't have it after they give us that 90 days with that 180, then we can start.
Well, if
Then we can try and claw out the, then we got that time to
We got that
get the
90
money
days.
to start.
So-
2 years and 9 months, if they don't show up with a bond,
Yeah, we're-
then they've decommissioned it.
And we're gonna
Going to take it out.
That's their agreement, they've decommissioned it, and if they don't wanna do it, they have a bonding company that will be prodding them.
Yes.
Yep, and then,
Most likely that bonding company's gonna
Bonding
go,
company will be
you better
prodding.
figure this
When-
out.
when the first few jobs I bonded, they had my house, they had everything I owned, that if the bond went in effect, if
you
I
know,
could belly up,
you
that they got
even give
that.
Mrs. Broker on that bond?
I don't think,
Shame
well, if
on
she's,
you.
if her, whatever, it might have been the house or
Indirectly,
anything that had her name on it, they never done business with me before. So they wanna impress it upon you that they're serious.
Well, the guy I
About
talked
you
to
finishing
that
this
does the
job.
bonding, he said it's really rare that the bonding company pays.
What,
Because they make sure the person holding the bond takes care of it.
Oh, yeah, and the only concern would be is if a bunch of these went broke all at the same time and some of those companies started going belly up, or whatever that might be, but yeah, I'll just, I will feel 1,000 times better if we know that that isn't gonna happen in Des Moines County.
It's effectively Mondays.
It's a Monday.
Zach, you're supposed to be off this week.
I am.
You are off this week?
Yes.
Well,
That's what my wife said the same thing. You're not up.
let's do that.
I'm gonna be gone the next 2 to 3 weeks. Not gone, like, just have other meetings. So that's why I decided, I'm like, let's just do it today. I'm in town. I'm not actually out anywhere, so.
So maybe a month from now or whatever, we could have one and go through the, because they're separate ordinances.
And they're, I mean, I'd say 75 to 85% of it's gonna be the
But
same.
they're-
But
but they're
there's that
separate
10 to
ordinances.
15, 20%
Because
that is a little bit different.
We'll have separate public hearings for them.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this one, I would say.
And if we make
you
these
make those
changes, if you
changes and
wanna-
email it to us, it would be ready for a public hearing.
And then we'll do the solar in a few weeks.
Doing
yeah.
the solar in a few weeks, and, which shouldn't take quite as long, cause we've got those, the big thing out of the way, and we can look at some of the solar stuff and I'll set back some, see.
Yeah, it's mostly just gonna be those little minor things.
Yeah.
Want to keep the bonding in there to protect the.
Oh,
people
yeah.
and
Yeah, all
keep-
that
And keep the
stuff's gonna be the
road
same.
work.
That will be word for word.
Yeah, all that stuff's gonna be the same, so that's stuff we got through the big stuff.
You know, when you said to fill a ditch in, so they get these cranes across, and we're protected the way this road now, that they've gotta pay to have that taken out, but the only thing I got sitting here thinking about it, are they gonna pay our crews to take it out, or are they gonna pay an independent crew to take it out with Ryan's?
It won't be our crews. It'll
It'll
have
be your crews, but we
Yep.
need to put it in there, somewhere in there, where it's up to his standards.
I will do my best to get my hands on
You
some
see what
road
I'm
use
saying there?
agreements. I think that will all be covered in the type of agreement we'll require they sign as far as the road.
Well, yeah, it specifies that the
But
road
to
is.
your
Yeah, I
standards,
I think it's in there.
I agree.
I read over that, and
Rules and responsibility.
I know it says the responsibility, it's their responsibility, but I didn't see in there where to meet the county standards.
Well, I don't think they get to do the project without the road agreement. So within that
Yes.
road agreement, I'm assuming we'll address all these kind of
Yes.
facts. What they're gonna do,
Okay.
what they're gonna handle as far as maintenance, what's the permanent repair gonna look like, the whole area, but I'll try to get my hands on an agreement from a previous one to see what all it covers.
I priced a crane once, we put up, the Riverboat Casino there on, is it in Bettendorf? Whatever, I don't remember what they call it anyway, and there's a one-story parking lot there, a precast parking lot. So they thought they were doing well, so they wanted to put another level or two on that. So you had to sit way out here with those roof tees weighed 60,000 pounds. So you had to reach clear over and all do that. Anyway, so,
Be a big crane.
so I priced it, and got prices for them. It was gonna be 80 truckloads to get the crane there.
Might not
Then
be
it was-
cost effective.
Oh, and I don't remember, it was wildly expensive, and it took a while to put it together, and you needed equipment to put it together. And you had to insure it for $8 or $10 million, and I don't remember what the monthly charge was, but it was expensive. Eventually, they decided not to do that. They said the crane cost more than the whole rest of the
Well, that's what I
project.
say, they might as well build a new building.
It'd been cheaper to knock down the one they had and put up a new one.
Yeah.
Alright,
So that's our plan, another
so
month.
we'll make some of these edits and get it for a final review for everybody, including, we'll get it to Trent too, with the highlighted changes, and then I guess we'll plan here within the next couple of weeks or
Couple
so
of
to
weeks,
do like public hearing,
hearing
and
on
then
that.
we'll come back and
And
do a more thorough review on the solar, more on the setback stuff, cause I think we got through all the big items.
In a month?
Ish,
Zach,
yeah.
I don't see that you've eaten any of your donut balls.
No.
I offered them nicely, they could cut the one in half so they wouldn't have to argue about who got the
Chipped
extra
a
one.
tooth.
Don't
I tried.
Don't fall.
I can't imagine imagine
Donut
how hard those
balls.
things are right
I
now.
can just see
That was a
somebody.
great
Have you
call.
done additional research on this yet, Shane?
I don't have to, I
Yeah.
already know.
I
the
already
answer.
know what the
He
answer
knows
is.
the answer.
I
It's a
do.
donut ball.
I can't help it that you guys don't know, but everybody knows what a ball is.
Can you see
Different point
somebody
count.
going around